The pediatric surgeon's words echoed in my mind as I sat in that sterile pre-op room, holding my 7-year-old son's hand while he played with his dinosaur figurine. "We'll need to schedule within the next month, Mrs. Harrison. The growth is pressing against his spine. The sooner we operate, the better his chances of full recovery." Ethan looked up at me with those huge brown eyes, the same ones his father had before the accident took him from us 3 years ago. "Will it hurt, Mommy?" "You'll be asleep the whole time, baby," I whispered, smoothing his dark hair. "And when you wake up, you'll be all better." What I didn't tell him was that I'd been saving for this surgery for 18 months. $22,000 sat in that account, every penny scraped together from overtime shifts, selling my jewelry, even my car. We took the bus everywhere now, but it would be worth it when Ethan could run again without pain. I kissed his forehead and told him I'd be right back, just needed to confirm the payment with the billing department. The woman at the desk pulled up our account, typed something, frowned, then typed again. "Mrs. Harrison, I'm showing insufficient funds in the account you provided." My blood turned to ice. "That's impossible. Check again." She turned her monitor toward me. The account balance read $0. Last withdrawal, $22,000. Today, 11:47 a.m. While I'd been sitting with Ethan, someone had emptied his surgery fund. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone, logging into the banking app. The transaction was there, clear as day. Authorized by Margaret Harrison, my mother-in-law. I must have stood there for 5 minutes, just staring at the screen. The billing lady asked if I needed water. Someone else asked if I should sit down. But all I could think about was Margaret's face at last week's family dinner when she'd asked about Ethan's surgery fund, and I'd foolishly told her exactly how much we'd saved. "These things always work themselves out," she'd said, pouring herself more wine. "Besides, that boy looks healthy as a horse to me." I rescheduled the surgery consultation, told Ethan we needed to do more tests first, and drove straight to Margaret's house. My deceased husband's childhood home, where she still lived like a queen on his father's pension, hosting book clubs and wine tastings while I worked doubles at the hospital. She answered the door in a new designer dress, fresh manicure gleaming as she held a champagne flute. Music and laughter drifted from her living room. "Diana, darling, you're just in time. We're celebrating my trip to Bali. I leave tomorrow morning." I followed her inside, my face carefully neutral. Her book club ladies were scattered around the living room, admiring glossy brochures of beachfront resorts. "Bali," I said quietly. "That must be expensive." Margaret laughed, that tinkling sound that made my skin crawl. "Oh, you know me. I've been saving for ages. Plus, I had a little windfall today." She winked at her friends. "Sometimes the universe just provides." I sat down slowly, accepting the wine glass someone pushed into my hand. "A windfall. How fortunate. Isn't it?" She settled into her velvet armchair, the one she never let the grandchildren sit in. $22,000, just sitting there doing nothing. Can you imagine? Some people have no idea how to properly manage money. The room went quiet. Even her friends sensed something shifting in the air. "That's interesting," I said, taking a small sip. "The exact amount in Ethan's surgery fund." Margaret's smile didn't waver. "What a coincidence. The fund that was emptied today, while I was at his pre-op appointment." Her friends exchanged glances, starting to look uncomfortable. Margaret set down her glass with a sharp click. "If you're implying something, Diana, just say it." I pulled out my phone, showing her the bank transaction. "You stole my son's surgery money." She actually laughed. "Stole? I'm on the account, remember? You needed a co-signer with better credit after David died. I can withdraw money whenever I please." That money was for Ethan's spine surgery. "Healthy kids don't need savings," she said, lifting her chin. "Besides, Bali was calling. I've sacrificed enough for this family. David's gone, and I deserve to live a little. Your grandson needs surgery. He needs to toughen up. A little back pain never killed anyone." She stood, gesturing toward the door. "I think you should leave. You're making my guests uncomfortable." I stayed seated, running my finger around the rim of my wine glass. "Margaret, do you remember when you added yourself to that account?" "Of course. You practically begged me." "And do you remember what you signed?" Her eyes narrowed. "Standard bank forms." I smiled then, really smiled, for the first time since seeing that empty account. "Actually, you signed a custodial agreement. For a medical trust account. Not a joint account. A medical trust." The color started draining from her face. "What?" "See, the bank manager, Mr. Fredrickson, his daughter has the same condition as Ethan. He helped me set up the account specifically as a medical trust. You're listed as an emergency custodian, yes. But withdrawals can only be made for medical expenses. With documentation. Margaret grabbed the back of her chair. You're lying. The vacation you just booked? The one leaving tomorrow morning? That's wire fraud. And since you crossed state lines with the transaction, that makes it federal. One of her friends stood up, mumbling about needing to leave. Then another. Within minutes, the room was emptying, leaving just Margaret and me. You tricked me, she hissed. I protected my son. There's a difference. She lunged for her phone, probably to call her bank, maybe a lawyer. But it was too late. Through the front window, we could both see a black sedan pulling into the driveway. Mr. Fredrickson stepped out first, followed by 2 uniformed officers. The doorbell rang. Margaret's hands were shaking now, wine sloshing onto her new dress. You called the police on your own family? No, I said, standing to answer the door. The bank did. Automatic protocol for medical trust fraud over $20,000. Mr. Fredrickson entered first, his face professionally neutral, but his eyes kind when they met mine. Mrs. Harrison, we've frozen the fraudulent transaction. The funds will be returned to the medical trust within 24 hours. Margaret tried to speak, but only a squeak came out. Mrs. Margaret Harrison, one of the officers said, stepping forward. We need you to come with us to answer some questions about fraudulent withdrawal from a medical trust account. This is insane. She finally found her voice. It's a family matter. Mr. Fredrickson pulled out a tablet, showing a document. Ma'am, you electronically signed a custodial agreement specifically stating that funds could only be withdrawn for documented medical expenses for the minor child, Ethan Harrison. You then withdrew the entire balance and used it to purchase international travel. That's a federal crime. But she said I could. Margaret stopped, realizing I'd never said any such thing. Additionally, Mr. Fredrickson continued, we've found 3 other instances in the past year where you've attempted to access the account. Each time, you were blocked because you couldn't provide medical documentation. This shows pattern and intent. As the officers led Margaret toward the door, she turned back to me, her face twisted with rage. He's my grandson. I had every right. No, I cut her off. You had no rights. You had a responsibility. One you just proved you can't handle. What about Bali? She asked desperately, as if that still mattered. I hear federal holding is lovely this time of year, I said. Not quite Bali, but I'm sure you'll adjust. The last thing I saw before they drove away was her face in the back window of the police car, finally understanding that her golden years just turned to steel bars. Mr. Fredrickson stayed behind for a moment, placing a gentle hand on my shoulder. The full amount will be restored by morning. Ethan's surgery can proceed as scheduled. Thank you, I whispered, tears finally coming. Thank you for suggesting the medical trust. My daughter's surgery is next month, he said softly. I understand what it's like, the fear, the planning, the sacrifice. No one should steal from sick children. He paused at the door. She'll likely take a plea deal. 2 to 5 years, probably. The house will need to be sold for restitution and legal fees. I nodded. The house where my husband grew up would finally leave the family. But Ethan would have his surgery. He'd run again, play again, be a kid again. That night, I sat by Ethan's bed, watching him sleep with his dinosaur clutched to his chest. His breathing was even peaceful, unaware of the battle fought for his future that day. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister-in-law, Margaret's daughter, who lived across the country. Just heard. Mom's in federal custody? For stealing from Ethan? I typed back, yes. She emptied his surgery fund for a Bali vacation. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, I knew she was selfish, but this. I'm so sorry. If you need anything, anything at all, please call. More texts flooded in as the news spread through the family. Shock, disgust, offers of help. The family Margaret had ruled with an iron fist was finally seeing her true face. The next morning, I checked the bank account. $22,000 sat safely in the medical trust, exactly where it belonged. I called the hospital and rescheduled Ethan's surgery for the following week. Mommy, Ethan said over breakfast, Grandma's house looks empty. Her car's gone. Grandma had to go away for a while, I said carefully. Is she in Bali? I spread peanut butter on his toast, thinking about how to answer. No, baby. She's learning an important lesson about taking things that don't belong to her. He considered this seriously, then nodded. Like when Tommy took my dinosaur at school and had to go to the principal. Exactly like that. Will she say sorry? I doubt it, I thought, but said instead, maybe someday. The surgery went perfectly. 6 weeks later, Ethan ran for the first time in a year, laughing as he chased butterflies in the park. I took a video and sent it to Mr. Fredrickson with a simple message. Thank you for protecting this. Margaret took the plea deal. 3 years in federal prison, 5 years probation. The house sold to cover her legal fees. She never apologized, never admitted wrongdoing, just sent one letter saying I'd destroyed the family. But watching Ethan run, hearing him laugh without pain, I knew the truth. I hadn't destroyed anything. I'd saved the only family that mattered, my son. And Margaret? She'd learned the hard way that healthy kids might not need savings, but criminal grandmothers definitely need lawyers.